How to help your son quit vaping. If that's a huge problem, mom, you're noticing, you're in the right place. So stay tuned. If you're new here, my name is Agam Dewan. I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. And so it's my job to help moms connect with their sons and help them with their mental health. This is a more personal issue for me. Well, one, because, I see so many kids nowadays vaping. But two, because it's something that I struggled with as well. So I remember at my worst I was in residency. I was in my third year of residency. I had 3 vapes at one point. I had one in my drawer. I had one in my car, and then I had one in my work drawer. So literally, I would bounce from home to car to work, and then because it was always a different flavor, so it always kept me going. It was just something I did throughout the day. And I was doing this for a couple months, and so it started very, I guess, innocently, quote unquote, basically like someone else was doing it. And so I took a hit of theirs 2 years prior to that. And I was like, oh, this feels pretty good. And then I just kept doing that. And then I started purchasing my own. And then it led to that moment, right, with the 3. And I remember just doing this for months, but then I was having troubles in the gym. I was getting more tired. Sometimes walking would get me out of breath. And I was like, okay, what am I doing with my life? What is the benefit of this? I remember one time going into the store, and I had my medical ID on me. It was on my shirt or my badge. And the cashier commented on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. And, that was a definite wake up call for me too, kind of seeing that, what am I doing? I remember one day I literally woke up I was about to go to bed, and I was like, why am I being so stupid? And so I remember getting the vape that I had and just throwing it into the garbage. I just tossed it in there. I'm like, okay, I'm being dumb. Stop. You would think that worked, right? No. The next day, I remember going into the garbage and then taking it out and then puffing it again. That just tells me it's been an on and off thing. But now, so I've gone to the point where I don't own any vapes. I don't hardly ever use them. Sometimes I'll get tempted, very rarely, but I don't have one. I've been maybe once in the past 2 months I've used it. So that's a lot more progress, at least for me. I'm not perfect either, right? And I recognize how hard it is. So that's why I want to share tips to help out your son too. Something that your son should understand is that, and you should understand, is that vaping, it's an automatic thing. It's not it's not even a conscious thing that you do. It's not like people wake up and oh yeah, I am going to vape, and every time they puff, they do it, right? It's more it'll just happen to be there, and then they'll hit it, or it'll happen to be there, or someone else will have it and they'll hit it, or they might go through it without even realizing it, or they might pair it with their morning coffee, or at school, right? You go to the bathroom and they do it. It's because the thing that you got to remember is that there's triggers. There's often different triggers, just where habits stack together, and one thing will lead into another thing. So for example, for me, I remember that socializing was a trigger for me. If I'm at home, I have no cravings for it. It's not even something that I think about. But if I go out and someone else has it, the sight, that's a trigger. If I have drank alcohol, that becomes a trigger, because I associate alcohol with the vaping, right? So that becomes a trigger as well. So basically what you can do is help your son find, okay, what are the triggers that he has? What are the things that prompt him to use it? So it's probably built into his routine, right? He probably uses it in school, or in the car, or with certain friends. So that's important. Any other kind of emotional triggers. So if he's stressed, he might reach for it. If he's bored, he might reach for it. Seeing someone else, right? So that was a big one for me. And also the friends thing, right? Socially reinforced. So he might see his friends doing it, and then that's what gets him to do it, to help him to fit in. That makes it very hard to quit, especially if you don't know your triggers. The other thing is that just nicotine itself is a very addictive substance. And the reason is because the dopamine spike you get from nicotine is very quick. So basically you take a hit, and then it instantly gives you that pleasure. It's very instantaneous. So you get that instant hit, but then it's short, very short acting. So then it drops, and then that drop causes the craving to go out for it again. That's why people don't get addicted to nicotine patches. or to gum, right? Because those are more of a like longer lasting form. So you don't have that spike and fall. It's the spike and fall and the fall which causes that craving again. And that's what makes quitting so hard too. So, if you want to help him quit, here's some things that you can do. So one is, of course, trying to help him remove, once you understand the triggers, trying to help him remove those triggers. So for me, right, like just getting it out of sight was the biggest thing. Like I remember I had a stint for like 4 or 5 months where I never even touched it, literally never touched it. And then I was cleaning my apartment and like I was going digging through drawers and then I found one. I used it. I'm a psychiatrist, I'm a doctor. I literally hadn't touched it for months. Found one, used it. So out of sight, out of mind is so, so important, especially if your son has ADHD or something, then it's very, very important. Just get it out of there. That's the main thing. The environment shift is very important too. Recognizing what environments you use in, socializing or non-socializing. Does he vape in his room, for example, right? Then maybe he needs to get it out of his room. This is a big thing we see with gaming too. So if a kid is gaming a lot in his room, just moving the gaming system out of the room can make a huge difference. Encourage avoiding those friends. Like if he does hang out with certain friends who do it all the time, then encourage him to avoid those. Harder said than done, right? All of this also has to hinge on him wanting to do it, right? You shouldn't be putting in so much effort into getting him to quit if he doesn't want to. Sometimes you kind of have to play a longer game where you have to let them make the decision. So you can more like subtly bring it up or discuss it with them, but being very forceful with it may not be the optimal approach if you want to preserve a good relationship with your son. So in addiction psychiatry, we have this saying where you want to replace that habit with something else. It's like to get rid of one habit. So I remember a patient told me that, so she recently just quit vaping, and what really worked for her was, so she started chewing a lot more gum, which is what I did too, actually. So I started using gum and using mints, like, I use these mints. So those two things worked. But she said she would hold the chapstick, and she would hold this chapstick in her hand, and she would constantly do this. And that really, she said it helped out her oral fixation, or like her hand fixation, because she always wanted to be holding on to it. And so that made a huge difference for her. And that's a very, very real thing, the holding on to it. I remember an ex I used to date would constantly would want to be holding on to the vape, even during like more private, intimate moments. She would always want to be holding on, and I would have to physically grab it away from her. So that's definitely a real thing. So ask him if that's, something that's happening too, the holding on to it. You can also encourage him to get into other healthy habits. Like for example, when me, right, like something that helped me to stop was when I was realizing, okay, this is affecting my weightlifting quite a bit. It's just affecting my ability to lift, and like that's an important goal for me. And this is affecting my health because I'm getting out of breath. So like by focusing on the pain it's causing, that's what incites that behavior change, right? That pain incites behavior change. So if you help him focus on other things like, his physical health or sleeping or weightlifting, then he may naturally want to quit because of that. So another thing for me was that I knew that if I wanted to be good in my weightlifting, I had to sleep. I had to get good sleep. And if you use the nicotine too close to sleep, it disrupts your sleep. So I was like, well, now I'm really messing up my weightlifting progress in 2 ways, not just one. Another thing you can do is that you can definitely educate, but you don't want to lecture, right? Obviously, don't say like, oh yeah, vaping's bad for you, don't do it. Like, when does that ever work? That never works for anybody. So it's more about, oh, okay, so it sounds like you've any kind of pain he has, you can amplify it. So it sounds like you are feeling nervous. Well, like nicotine withdrawal actually causes social anxiety. Oh, it sounds like you're feeling out of breath. Well, what do you think could be contributing to that? Oh, so that like vaping can cause that, right? Don't be like patronizing about it, but just like you can make a subtle comment just to subtly direct his attention there. Also testosterone. So you could also discuss how vaping lowers testosterone. A lot of young men these days care a lot about their testosterone. So that's really important too. Like for me, for example, something else I noticed was like, for example, with my ex, because she used to use it, like that would tempt me to use it more. And I realized that I would have less stamina during intimate moments. And that was a big thing for me when I realized like, okay, like these are real consequences that are happening. And I have to stop. Like this is not I can't keep continuing this. If he has trouble quitting, you can do what's called the 3-day rule, where basically you encourage him to stick with it for 3 days. That's where the withdrawal is worst. is the first 3 days. And once you're able to do that, then it becomes a lot easier. Thankfully for me, I've never had any withdrawal. Like I can take something up and put something away, like whatever, like I don't even think about it. But a lot of people are different. One of my patients, I just helped her quit vaping. And so she just got put on she started using a nicotine patch, and she actually just showed it to me, and she uses it and she's like, yeah, I feel great now doing it. So, and then of course, if he relapses, which will happen, like it will absolutely happen, you don't guilt trip him. Don't tell him he's weak, or don't, make him feel bad about it. Just like, just break it down. Like, okay, what do you think happened? What caused it? What were the triggers? And then that way you can work on avoiding it in the future, right? So overall, it's not about quitting, or it's not about willpower. It's about setting up your environment, finding other things to replace with it, having a good reason to do it too, like having some pain caused by the immediate use of it, and then just wanting different things in his life, and like, you helping channel that. So that's something that you can really do, Mom, is help facilitate these things. But yeah, so if you want personal help with that, or if you want help with you or your son's mental health, then feel free to book a consult. Otherwise, yeah, thank you for watching.